Awesome.
Oh, yeah. You have a fine picture up there.
Like that?
That's a clean jersey right there, man. That must have been first play of the game or something.
Yeah, that was Indiana my last year.
There you go. Our showrunner was just saying it's crazy how guys remember specific plays. He knows where he was in this picture.
We were just talking about that. She's like, do you remember this? I'm like, yeah.
There you go. This is Campus Lore Live, where NFL players are the experts on college football. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside Aaron Murray. And this week, we're joined by Chicago Bear and former Penn State wide receiver Allen Robinson and JT Barrett, former quarterback and national champion for Ohio State. Big game this weekend. 2 top 10 teams in the Big Ten. Penn State traveling to Ohio State. We will touch on that later. It is sure to have college football playoff ramifications. And that's where we'll start, Aaron. A lot happened this past weekend. So much to talk about. Let's just get to the biggest news of the weekend. Alabama's starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, out for the season, broke his hip against Mississippi State right before halftime. You were a quarterback. Nick Saban, at halftime, said, look, we just wanted Tua to get in there and run the 2-minute drill, then we were going to take him out. Do you buy his excuse for what went down?
Oh, I 100% do. And I'm excited to hear you because I know you got something brewing right now to kind of counter what I'm going to say. But there's nothing wrong with getting a 2-minute drill in. And there's nothing wrong with coming in there. These are the games when you look at the schedule and you say, okay, we're way better than this football team. We're going to get in there. I'm going to throw about 4 or 5 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. This is my mentality. When we play bad teams, I'm like, this is stat time. This is an opportunity for me to go out there, throw 4 or 5. I play one half. Second half, maybe come in there for one series just to kind of, simulate the idea of coming out of halftime and making those adjustments. And then boom, I'm done. Backup's in. We're going with him, getting him some PT. So it wasn't like this was the third quarter or the fourth quarter. This was the first half. He was playing the first half. He was going to not play in the second half. So I have no problems at all with Nick Saban. I have a little bit of problem with Tua in this situation of understanding you're up big. The game's out of control.
35-7 at the time.
You're whooping up on Mississippi State. You're out of the pocket. You got 2 dudes coming on you. Just throw the ball away.
Yeah.
And just
you're already banged up.
Yeah, you have to understand. You understand your body. You understand that, listen, that there's no point in me for hanging this on. I know that's part of his game. That's always been part of his game. The creativity in the pocket, the extending the plays. I mean, that's what makes Tua. But you also understand, I need to just stay healthy.
Yeah.
That is the goal right now. So a little bit on him, a little bit on Saban, but at the end of the day, honestly, I'm not mad at Saban. It happens. It's a freakish injury. I thought it was his ankle at first again.
Yeah.
I was like, nothing looks wrong with his ankle. And then obviously the reports come out that was hip. And it's unfortunate. I mean, he's one of the best college football players in the past 10, 20 years.
Sure.
He's a tremendous talent. This team will miss him. And he's just a good person. I mean, he's just a guy you want in the locker room. Great leader, hard worker, doesn't cause any issues. And he will be sadly missed in the Crimson Red.
Yeah, Alabama wins this game 38-7 at Mississippi State, a divisional game, a road game. And I was just surprised, honestly, that Tua started. I thought after when he got banged up against LSU, played that game, a lot of people were wondering if he'd be 100%. He clearly was not 100%. To your point, have some situational awareness, throw the ball away, play that 2-minute drive, and then get out of the game and get healthy for hopefully for them would have been a chance to play in the college football playoff. And I understand, as a former football player, that you guys and coaches and quarterbacks have these plans before the game. Hey, Tua, most likely we're going to be up pretty big. I'd like you to play into the second quarter late, maybe get set up with a 4-minute or a 2-minute drive, and then we'll take you out, okay? Just to play devil's advocate, though. How many drives of 2 minutes or less has Alabama had this weekend? Who needs 2-minute work? Tua Tagovailoa? Because the answer is no. And if you were to look at, let's just compare it. Let's simplify it in ways that will make my argument better, because that's what I want to do. That's like Steve Kerr saying at the end of the game, we just wanted to keep Steph in, though, even though we were down 25 because he needs some 3-point work. No, Steph Curry does not need 3-point work, and Tua Tagovailoa did not need 2-minute drill work. But I do believe for a fact that Coach Saban was right in saying, hey, this was the plan. We executed our plan, because his interview at halftime, he was contrite. He was sad. I mean, you could see he felt bad for Tua Tagovailoa, and he said, look, you cannot coach about worrying for players to get injured or if they're going to get injured. So Extremely unfortunate. Tua Tagovailoa out for the season for Alabama. Now it remains to be seen how the committee will react to that.
I just want to go back to does he need 2-minute work? You can ask any, and I played the quarterback position for a long time.
Pretty well, I might add.
There's never enough 2-minute situations that you can go through.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things. I mean, I go back to every camp in college. I go back to every camp in the NFL with Coach Reed in Kansas City. That is the first thing we work on in OTAs. That's the first thing we work on when we get to camp in the fall. Every game in the league, most games and big-time games, what they come down to, who has the ball last.
Yeah,
2-minute situations, offense, defense. Big-time games, so you can never get enough. I know you're saying, oh, he's been through it a million times. Tom Brady's been through it a million times too, but I guarantee you anytime he has an opportunity to go out there and run a 2-minute drill, he is going to take full advantage of it. That's what the big games come down to. Like I said, you can never have enough practice doing it.
I love it. That's some pretty good insight right there. And it's unfortunate. Again,
yes,
prayers out to Tua Tagovailoa. Never good, especially a hip injury, man. That is pretty tough. But again, going back to what the committee will do with Alabama, just a few more weeks of the regular season. It's crazy how fast 2019 has flown by. And it seems like the top 3 teams are pretty well cemented and will be covered for the college football playoff. Of course, in no order being LSU, Ohio State, and Clemson. Georgia's sitting at number 4 right now. They had a great win on the road against Auburn this past weekend. Alabama's at number 5. Remains to be seen what they'll be this week. Then you got to go out to the Pac-12. Oregon at 6, Utah at 7, and they took care of business in a big way this past weekend. What are your thoughts on the Pac-12 right now?
I love the Pac-12 right now. I really do. I think it's going to be interesting to me what happens in that Oregon-Utah game because obviously Oregon does have that big name brand. Utah, maybe not as sexy. I think a lot of people were talking about them at the beginning of the season. Great defense. Yeah. Offensively, they're stepping it up. I just want to see complete football teams being in this top 4. I don't want to see a team that is extremely offensive heavy or defensive heavy. I like to me, right now, Ohio State and Clemson, once again, in my mind, are the most complete teams.
Sure.
I think the teams that possibly are the best 2 teams in the country. I know LSU has probably had the toughest schedule. They've gone out there and shown it week in and week out. But still, once again, LSU, you go back to this game this past weekend versus Ole Miss, they gave up to Plumlee, the freshman quarterback, who had over 200 yards rushing.
4 touchdowns on the ground.
4 touchdowns. I mean, LSU, it just drives me nuts. You pay your defensive coordinator $2.5 million. You got NFL talent all over the place. Grant Delpit may be the best player in the country on that side of the football. You got first rounders at cornerback. You got great guys on the defensive front at the linebacker level too. Why aren't you producing? It is just head scratching me. I swear I said at the beginning of the season too. I think they're on vacation. I really do. I think they just sit there and say,
if our offense can score 60 points, we're going to be all right.
We're just going to chill, man. Who cares? The team scores on us. What does it matter? Joe Burrow's got us. He's going to go out there and score right away. The problem is when you play a great defense.
Yeah.
When they play Georgia in the SEC championship game, when they play Ohio State or Clemson, where you can't score 40-plus points, as a defender, you haven't trained yourself to play 4 quarters. I mean, versus Alabama, they played a great half.
Yeah.
Then what happened second half? They said, hey, listen, we're up big. This game's over. We're going to relax. Alabama scored a bunch of points and dominated the second half. They are not used to playing 4 quarters of football, and that scares the crap out of me if I was an LSU fan right now.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about Oregon, too, going back to the Pac-12. Georgia won this past weekend. They beat Auburn 21-14, clinching the SEC East. Auburn now has 3 losses, and Oregon cannot be happy about that. I mean, that is their only loss of the season. They were leading that game in the first week of the season, the entire game, until Bo Nix had his freshman heroics to get Auburn the victory. Will that matter, even if Oregon wins the Pac-12 championship, with their one loss being against maybe a 4-loss team if Auburn drops to Alabama?
No, because if you look at Auburn this season and how well they've played, they played well versus LSU on the road. They played really well versus Georgia this past weekend.
What? They were down 21-0.
It was 21-14 at the end of the day. When they go back and look at the scores, it was 21-14. Just like we talk about LSU versus LSU, or Alabama versus LSU.
Yeah, absolutely.
They say, oh, well, it was only a 5-point game. No, they weren't. LSU kicked their butt the entire football game, but when you look at the end of the season, you're like, oh, well, it was pretty close, actually. So maybe Alabama's not that bad. So I think they're going to say the same thing about about Auburn. They've played close games. It's a good team. You watch the film. It's still one of the best defenses in the country. That's not an awful loss. It was at a neutral site, first game of the season. Oregon should have won that football game. They should have put it away pretty much in the first half. First game, it's so long ago. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
Well, you've reeled off 12 straight wins. If they win out, that's 12 straight wins. You win the Pac-12. You beat a really good ranked Utah team in the Pac-12 championship. I think they're in. I would put them in unless Georgia beats LSU.
Yeah.
Then the SEC gets 2 in. I just don't see Alabama getting in right now.
That's where I was going to go next, because talking about that 4th spot, we opened this segment by saying the top 3 teams most likely will all be in there. The one team that truly controls their own destiny is Georgia. Yes. If Georgia wins the SEC championship, they will be in the college football playoff, and most likely LSU will also, having going undefeated up until that point in the season. The question is, can Georgia beat LSU? You just talked about how their defense is no good. It is strength on strength, weakness on weakness in terms of Georgia's offense against LSU's defense, and then LSU's high-octane offense against Georgia's stout D.
This is 150 years of college football, correct, this season?
Yeah, this is the 150 years.
What have we said for 150 years? What wins championships? Defense wins championships. So now in 150 years, does that now change? Is this going to be the changing point?
Yeah.
And now 2019, you see all these great offenses. What do they do? High tempo, 4 receivers, 5 receivers. Shoot, LSU and Alabama are scoring 50 points a game. I mean, who would have thought that 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago? Is football changing that much where it's not the defense doesn't win championships? Is it the offense that does it? So I don't know. I'm still a believer, even as an offensive guy, that defense wins it. But you also have to be balanced, though. I think that's the new twist on it. It's not just defense. We're going to shut you out, and that's how we're going to win games. You got to be able to score some points. I do believe, though, that it's going to be a great game. And I want to take it a step further when it comes to Georgia, and call me a homer all you want, and not only the SEC championship game, but just the playoffs in general. Of all the quarterbacks that are going to be in the playoffs, or who we as of right now believe are going to be in it.
Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, and if Georgia remains, it would be Jake Fromm, is what you're saying.
Yes, Justin Fields has never played in a championship game, never played in the playoffs. Joe Burrow never played in a championship game, never played in the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence, 2 games. He played in the playoffs last year, and they won the national championship. Jake Fromm has played in multiple SEC championship games, played in a national championship game, played in multiple playoff games.
Yeah.
He has more experience than all of these guys combined. If Georgia does make it to the playoffs, and that does matter. It's a big stage, man. These playoff games are not a regular season game. It's not a game at home.
A lot of preparation.
It's not a rivalry game. This is everyone in the country is watching this. Every scout's going to be there. A lot of preparation. This is tough stuff. This is when certain items on the body get a little tight. And this is nut cutting time. So Jake Fromm has proven that in these big moments, he can get the job done. Even when Georgia doesn't win some of the games, he still goes out there and balls out.
For sure.
So between the defense, Jake Fromm's experience, the offensive line, the run game,
they have a chance.
They have a chance.
Yeah.
And like you said, Drew, they have put themselves in a situation where they can control it. You win out, you are in. And they can't look past Texas A&M this weekend. Mm-hmm. They can't look past Georgia Tech, which I'm sure they won't. They'll take care of business first Tech. But right now, you got to feel, for all the crap that Georgia's gotten and about their offense and about how blah it is, you still have to feel pretty good if you're a Georgia fan because of all the leadership and experience.
Yeah, leadership, experience, and defense. They've had 3 shutouts this year, and they're playing at an extremely high level. Defense wins championships, you say. It's been that way for 150 years. A team that has not won a championship recently that's probably had the talent to is Oklahoma, and it's because of their lack of defense. What a game this past weekend. Going into Baylor, undefeated Baylor Bears jump out to a 28-3 lead. And obviously, if you're an Atlanta Falcons fan, you know 28-3 is probably the worst lead to have in all of football.
Wasn't one of the Baylor's coaches a coach at Atlanta before?
Was he really?
I think I saw something about that.
That poor guy. Yeah, Oklahoma comes storming back, wins this game in regulation 34-31, probably setting up a rematch in the Big 12 championship game in a couple of weeks between Baylor and Oklahoma, if Baylor can get past Texas this weekend. But Jalen Hurts, I mean, those heroics, you've seen it. You saw it last year in the SEC championship game. He does it this past weekend against Baylor. What a game for him. Oklahoma still has a chance if they run the table and win the Big 12.
A slight chance.
Yeah.
They're still behind the Pac-12, though. I still think in the pecking order of the world of college football right now, it's the Pac-12 champion, then Oklahoma. So they would need a lot of bad things to happen. They would need somehow Oregon to lose a game and then Oregon to beat Utah or vice versa. Utah would have to lose a game and then beat Oregon. A one-loss Pac-12 champion, in my eyes, gets in over a one-loss Oklahoma team. It's just defense, not great.
Yeah.
They've played some really close games.
The past 2 weeks,
it's just been not.
End of the game against Iowa State, end of the game against Baylor. Is that a sign of this team finding ways to win, or that the clock is ticking and they might get their second loss?
The clock is ticking and they could have their second loss. I mean, shoot, they're going to have to play Baylor again.
Yeah, Baylor and Oklahoma State. I mean, Oklahoma State can keep up with them as well.
I mean, and their game this weekend too. It's just no one in their schedule right now makes you feel like, okay, they're going to blow them out. Every team they play can score points offensively. They can't stop anyone. So it's a recipe for disaster. But still, at the end of the day, Oregon's playing complete football, offense, defense, and same with Utah at the moment. So I think Oklahoma is sitting at home praying that, one, we better win the rest of our games, and two, a lot of crazy stuff needs to happen. And it could. I mean, look at this weekend. We had Minnesota lost and Baylor lost. That's two teams that are undefeated go down. You just don't know. And that's the beautiful thing about college football. Every single week from here on out, something crazy is going to happen. I mean, my junior season, we're on the outside looking in. And we have one loss. We lost to South Carolina. And so we're like, man, we not only need to win out, but we need Oregon to lose. All of a sudden, week 11 shows up. Oregon loses a game they should have won. And now we're saying, holy smokes, we take care of business. We're in. We beat Tech. We go to Alabama, or not Alabama. We play Alabama in the SEC championship game. And we all remember that craziness. We're up by 11 points. We lost, whatever. But if we would have won that game, we would have been playing Notre Dame in the championship. But we needed help. We need Oregon to somehow lose. I forgot who they lost to that year, but they weren't supposed to lose. So that's what I'm saying about Oklahoma. They need someone to lose that's not supposed to lose.
All right, in this revolving door of that fourth team wanting to get in, who's the most complete? Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Utah, Oklahoma, Minnesota?
I think Oregon's the most complete team of all of them. I think offensively, you give them a really good offense and a really good defense. If you look at Georgia, you got a really good, great defense, and you got a okay to good offense. So if you're going to kind of look at it like that, you got to give the nod to the check mark, the nudge forward to Oregon a little bit. But then Georgia plays in the SEC, and if Georgia beats LSU, that's what will put them ahead at the end of the day when it comes to comparing them to Oregon.
It's going to be an extremely fun end to the regular season, and it starts this weekend, really, with a huge game between Ohio State and Penn State. And when we come back after the break, we're going to be joined by former Penn State wide receiver, current Chicago Bear, Allen Robinson, and we'll see what he thinks about the Nittany Lions' chances. Come on right back. You're watching Campus Lore Live. All right, we are back. Welcome into Campus Lore Live. Drew Butler, Aaron Murray, and we are about to be joined by our first guest. Got to preview the biggest game of the weekend. Number 9 Penn State heading to Columbus to take on the number 2 ranked Ohio State Buckeyes. We are going to be joined by Allen Robinson, former Penn State wide receiver, currently a Chicago Bear. He was the second-round draft pick for the Bears back in 2014. Allen, thanks for joining us, man. A huge week for the Nittany Lions in Columbus this weekend. Look, they lost to Minnesota a couple weekends ago, but you would have to think that they have the talent and the belief to go into Columbus and knock off the Buckeyes this weekend.
Definitely, and they've done it before. I think some of the same players, they've done it under Franklin. They've come into the Ohio State game as an underdog and won.
So this playing at Ohio State, I mean, these are some big stadiums, some loud stadiums. In your mind, what is the toughest place to play in the Big Ten, and what makes it so difficult to also, on top of that, to play at a place like Ohio State?
I definitely would put Ohio State up there. I think it's either between there or Camp Randall. Those two environments are always rocking. With just the amount of fans that they have, I think they have a special atmosphere when it just comes to their culture.
How about KJ Hamler? I mean, he has had a phenomenal year, an explosive playmaker. You would think his talent could certainly transition into the NFL. You were a wide receiver at Penn State. You were able to put up some big numbers as well. What do you think his pro prospects are, and really how impressed with him have you been?
I've been very impressed. Again, me and KJ have a little bit of a backstory. We went to the same high school, and then he went to Penn State, so I've been able to watch him for a little bit now, and he has a tremendous amount of talent. I think that we'll be seeing him on Sundays next year. So
you're talking to 2 SEC guys here. So of course we love our SEC football, and we believe that we have the best teams in the country, but the Big Ten's pretty darn good, man. There's a lot of good teams from Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota's rolling. I mean, it's a tough conference to be in. Talk about the competition you face and how that kind of helped prepare you for the NFL.
Yeah, I think I played some pretty good competition. Again, playing against guys like Bradley Roby, Ryan Shazier, from Ohio State, even seeing the prospects that Ohio State has in the NFL now. So I think at this game right here especially, kind of just shows the talent level that the Big Ten has. Again, it'll be a lot of prospects playing in this game.
Yeah, Aaron asked you earlier what the hardest place to play in the Big Ten was. You alluded to Ohio Stadium and then, of course, Camp Randall. But we've talked to a lot of Big Ten guys throughout this season, and the first place they say is Penn State in those whiteout games. What's so special about the atmosphere in Happy Valley? And that whiteout game, it really is one of the best traditions in college football.
It's a very special atmosphere, probably the best, not probably, the best one that I've played in my football career. I think with just the tradition that comes along with it, the whiteout itself, the music, the fans, the student section, it all has a lot, it all plays its part into it. Again, it's a place that if you haven't saw a football game there, you definitely should catch one.
So the weather gets a little cold this time of the year. We're used to playing in games down here in the South that are, maybe in the 50s, 60s at this time of the season. You guys are going to be playing in games that are in the 20s, 30s, maybe a little bit snowy at times. Did you ever play any snow games up there towards the end of the season?
I did. I played in a couple of snow games. I played in one my freshman year, and I believe one my sophomore and junior year. So I played in a snow game every year. Again, it's a fun atmosphere. I'm not gonna lie. It does get cold. Catching the football gets a little harder. The football gets a little more slick. That leather is extremely tough. It's tough to throw and catch. So but it definitely calls for a special atmosphere.
All right, let's turn our attention to this weekend. Ohio State have been world beaters so far. They're getting Chase Young back from suspension at a pretty opportune time for the Buckeyes. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Justin Fields has been putting up ridiculous numbers. What does Penn State have to do to neutralize what has looked like probably the most complete team in the nation, of course, being Ohio State?
I think first things first, that they can't turn the ball over. Ohio State has a good defense. They have an pass rusher will probably go in the top 5 next year, so they have to be aware of that, and they have to try to play mistake-free football. Again, I think if they can do that, and try to get up a little bit, to make Ohio State have to throw the ball a little bit more and take them out of their comfort zone as far as how they like to play.
I want to talk about a team that's in the conference real quick, Minnesota. How surprising is it for you to see a team like them have this much success this year? One loss, been playing really well, have a chance to go on and play Ohio State in the conference championship here in a few weeks.
I'm not surprised at all. I think that over the past years, they've had some ups and downs, but it's a solid program, especially when you get to like November, well, really late October and November, it's a hard place to win at. They have a good atmosphere as well up there, so they have a home field advantage. It's cold, it's windy. If you're coming from the East Coast, it's a little bit earlier if you're playing at noon. So they have a little bit of an advantage, when it comes to playing at Minnesota.
Would a one-loss Big Ten champion still make the college football playoff?
I do believe so. I know we've saw a lot of craziness, as far as when it comes down to the Final Four team, but I definitely think so. I think when you look at Penn State, when you look at Ohio State, I think that they're qualified enough to get in there.
So you've played in a ton of big games on the road, ranked teams, top 10 teams going at it, just like this weekend with Penn State and Ohio State. If you were in that locker room and talking to some of their players, what would be your key message of kind of how to handle the environment?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I think everybody handles it a little bit differently. I think the main thing is just going out there having fun, embrace the atmosphere, embrace the energy, embrace the moment. This game right here will be one of the biggest games a lot of these guys will play in, so just embrace that moment, again, just try not to think about it too much, but just have fun. It's going to be an energy filled environment. Their student section is going to be rocking. It's going to be a fun game, I think.
All right, Alan, before we let you go, I need your official prediction for what's going to happen this weekend. Number 9, Penn State against number 2, Ohio State. Who wins?
I like Penn State winning 38-34. We've won there before on the road. And I think we can do it again. I think Coach Franklin, again, he's beat this team before, so I think he'll do it again. There's a lot at stake for us.
All right, a high-scoring shootout between 2 top 10 Big Ten teams, and Alan's calling for the Nittany Lions to get a huge victory and definitely throw a wrinkle into the college football playoff picture. Alan, thanks so much for joining us. And when we come back, we'll be joined by former Ohio State national champion quarterback JT Barrett. I think he'll think differently about Alan's prediction. Come on right back. You're watching Campus War Live. We are back, Campus Floor Live. Big thanks to Allen Robinson for joining us. And we're going to welcome in our next guest, Aaron, who I think might have a little bit of a different perspective on the big game this weekend between Penn State and Ohio State. Let's bring in JT Barrett, former Ohio State quarterback, 2015 national champion for the Buckeyes. JT, thanks for joining us, man. Huge game for Ohio State this weekend in Columbus. Number 9 Penn State against number 2 Ohio State, and we talked about it in the show open. Ohio State really has been the most consistent and probably is the most complete team in college football so far this season. What stood out to you for the Buckeyes this year?
Yeah, I think I would say the both offense and defense, those guys, they complement each other well. Their special teams are playing well, and it's just complementary football. They're both executing both sides of the ball at a high level, and I think that's just it's just good quality football that everybody loves to see. So with that, I think it's been really tough for them. It's tough for people to face them. So I think that's just worked in our favor.
So you guys got a great quarterback, Justin Fields, right now, and in my opinion, this is his opportunity to really showcase his talent against the elite teams. Penn State's coming up, Michigan's coming up. You got the Big Ten championship game, and to me, Joe Burrow is the Heisman favorite. Joe Burrow right now is going to win it. But if he slips up and has a bad game, similar to what Tua had last year, and Justin Fields does his thing over this last month of the season, Justin, to me, is the number 2 guy as of right now. And if he goes forward, he could possibly win this thing. What have you liked about his game so far this season?
I think his ability just to throw the football on time. I think the things they have set up, the plays they have involved, the people they have get involved, the great group of receivers they have, it's been really great for them. Attacking defenses, whether it be his legs or, like I said, throwing the football on time. So it's been very tough for defenses to stop him. And I think you're right with saying that. I would say Joe Burrow right now is the Heisman guy, but then Justin Fields, I think if he's continued doing what he's been doing, he'll be that next guy up.
In 2015, when y'all won the national championship, you were a redshirt freshman. And yeah, Justin Fields played a little bit for Georgia last year, transferred into Ohio State. So I guess you could maybe consider him a redshirt freshman if you get my gist. Look, this team has what it takes to win a national championship. What do you think it is about the coaching staff and Ryan Day in particular that gives a guy like Justin Fields so much confidence week in and week out?
I think it goes into the preparation. I think if you talk about the people that have been under Coach Meyer, I think it goes into preparing for big games. It's almost like it's ingrained in us. Like when we played a big game, he always said the most prepared team will win. And I think you take that approach into those big games, and it helps you have that confidence knowing that you went and did the work in the week of practice. So I know that's how I felt. I'm pretty sure that's how they approach games like this. I'm pretty confident, like 100% sure that's how they're approaching this week. So I think that just gives a player confidence when you know that you're prepared.
Speaking of Coach Urban Meyer for a quick second, what was it like playing under him? And do you see him at all here the next, year or two jumping back into coaching?
Yeah, playing with Coach Meyer was great. That was like one of the main reasons why I went to Ohio State for sure, being able to win like we did. And I'm not sure. When I was at Ohio State, he always stressed that was his dream job, being the Ohio State head coach. And for him to go somewhere else, I feel like it would be really tough because being that Ohio State was his dream job. So I don't know.
He also is really good on Fox college football pregame show. He does a really good job. And you talk about being prepared. I mean, you can tell that he does his work and is able to really show everybody how much talent he is on a broadcast. You went to Ohio State to be with Urban Meyer, and another guy who did that was Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow from Ohio, went to Ohio State, now obviously transferred and is kicking butt down at LSU. Y'all know each other. Tell us about the guy that Joe Burrow is. Are you surprised at the success he's having on the Bayou?
No, not at all. It's kind of crazy because, being at practice, you knew Joe was talented. He's a very smart guy. I think he had some things to work on his game as far as his release. That was something early on that was stressed. I didn't think it was that crazy, but it's something that he wanted to get better at, and he obviously did. And no, it doesn't surprise me at all. Like I said, he's doing things that we knew he could do. So it's been pretty cool to see.
JT, talk to me about being kind of the big man on campus at Ohio State. Being the quarterback at Georgia was pretty fun. Had a good time down there in Athens for 4 years, but I bet the experience was pretty sweet too up there in Columbus.
It was definitely different. I'm from a small town here in Texas, and going up there and having the Ohio State feel, like growing up in Texas, I knew probably like it was for you in Georgia, like you knew Georgia, and I knew the University of Texas for me being in Texas. So going to Ohio State, I wasn't aware of all the things that came along with being a quarterback there. I learned a lot from Braxton. Braxton helped me a lot my first year starting, just like how to carry yourself, understanding that you are somewhat a celebrity in the state of Ohio, which is just crazy to think about, but that's how much love Ohio State fans have for the Buckeyes. So, it was definitely a great time. I appreciate every bit of time I had up there. It was a great time. I'm so glad I'm a Buckeye.
I wonder what would have happened if JT went to Texas. That could have made the past couple years a little bit better for the Longhorns. Let's talk about this weekend a little bit. Penn State's a team that has given Ohio State trouble, especially in these big-time games. Looking forward to this weekend. Are you worried at all for the Buckeyes? I feel like there's a little bit better feeling since this one is in the Horseshoe.
Yeah, I think being that it is at home, I think that Penn State is definitely going to come to play for sure. It's going to be one of those, Big Ten football games that we love to see, those slug matches between good teams. So I think it's going to be a good atmosphere for college football. I think it's going to be one of those tight games and going to execute at a high level in order to win.
So we know this weekend's going to be a big game, but the big game too coming up is the game versus Michigan. Talk about that, the importance of the rivalry and how much fun it is playing against those guys.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. Like understanding how much responsibility is in that game for the people of Ohio. It's way bigger than yourself. And then with that, you put so much effort into that game in order to be the winner for that. So it's definitely one crazy atmosphere. I think it's in Ann Arbor this year. So it's going to be a good time for the Buckeyes down there.
Yeah, and it could be a special opportunity to go into that game undefeated and be undefeated throughout the regular season, winning it in the Big House. Do you think that's going to happen? What's going to happen this weekend against Penn State and Ohio State?
I believe we're going to win the game against Penn State. I think the way we're operating, I think we just continue to stay on schedule, not really having to be like too much of ourselves. Like if we beat ourselves, that's when we lose. So with that, I think we're going to play well this weekend. And then same thing, we go up there and play the team up north. So hopefully we go into the Big Ten Championship undefeated, and it'll be good.
Yeah, you'd have to think that Ohio State's going to have a really good shot at doing that, Aaron. Well coached, and they execute probably as good or better than any team in the nation. JT, thanks so much for your time. It's going to be a fun one this weekend. When we come back after the break, we will break that one down and all of the rest of the weekend's action. We'll see you right back here. We are back, Campus Lore Live. Drew Butler, Aaron Murray. Aaron, pretty awesome to have JT Barrett on with us, national champion at Ohio State. Good to get his take on what's going to happen in Columbus this weekend. Huge game in the Big Ten. We'll see how it plays out. What a weekend it was last week. I mean, I keep saying that, but it leads me to my Be Bold. And I'm just going to start it off right here, okay? Everybody knows what happened to Tua Tagovailoa last week. Dislocated his hip, out for the season, bruised up, bloodied. Put him on the stretcher, he's gone. What happens now? I'll tell you what happens now. Tua Tagovailoa is coming back to Alabama, and he is playing for the Tide again next year. What, he's going to go to the NFL with a broken hip? Give me a break. I mean, look at the situation of quarterbacks coming out this year. You got Justin Herbert. You got Jacob Eason probably from Washington. I think he comes back next year, gets healthy. He is one of the most popular Alabama football players of all time. Add another chapter into his book. He'll be playing for Coach Saban in the Tide next year. It's
going to be tough, man, when you get that kind of projection of, hey, you're a first-round quarterback still. And we're not doctors. We didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn last night. We don't know how long he's going to be out. So I think this plays a major role into it. If his doctors are saying, listen, you're going to be good to go come February, March, and you're going to be able to participate in a pro day and go show pro scouts that you're healthy, then I think that changes his mind. If they're saying, listen, you're not going to be healthy until next summer, and pro scouts can't really watch to see what you do, and then that may drop you in the draft.
For sure.
Then I would worry if I'm him a little bit right now. So we don't know. We're not doctors. Like I said, we didn't stay at the Holiday Inn. My Be Bold, we're going to stay with this season right now. to do with the playoffs is we keep talking about the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 has a chance with Oregon and Utah right now to get that number 4 spot if LSU takes care of business for Georgia, that SEC championship game. If Oregon wins and Georgia loses to LSU, I believe Oregon deserves that spot. And I think Oregon will get that spot. If Utah beats Oregon, everything's the same. All the situations the same. Georgia loses to LSU, all that good stuff. Utah does not get in. The committee does not favor Utah. They don't have a big enough brand. The sex appeal, whatever you want to say, they just don't got it. Oregon does. I mean, people will tune in to watch Oregon play LSU. I don't know if people are going to be as excited to play Utah or watch Utah versus LSU. It's unfortunate. Utah's a great football team, but when the committee's in that room, we don't know what they're talking about.
Yes.
But I think they're saying, listen, boys, I don't know if people really care about this football game. Maybe we'll put Alabama in just because we know people are going to tune in to watch Alabama versus LSU round 2. They're not going to tune in to watch Utah versus LSU. So, unfortunately for Utah, great season, but you need to be undefeated to get in.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that they put them in even if they beat Oregon.
I like you, and I like that. I think you're listening to me. You're coming around on the fact that I've been telling you week after week, the committee cares about more than just the 4 best teams. They want ratings. They want sex appeal, as you said. That will happen. You're completely right on that. If Utah were to win the Pac-12, under all the same circumstances, they do not get in. Oregon would get in. There's still football to be played, though. 2 more weeks of the regular season. We're heading into week 13 right now. I said it earlier. I'll say it again. It is absolutely crazy how fast this season has gone through. But let's talk about what's going to happen in Tuscaloosa. Without Tua Tagovailoa, they're welcoming in Western Carolina. How's Mac Jones going to react? What's going to happen in this game? Do they just run the ball and get out of there hopefully healthy?
Yeah, I think they're just going to see a lot of running. Najee Harris has played great this year. He's been running the ball really well. He's been catching the ball in the backfield really well. And you go back to the game that Mac Jones started and played versus Arkansas, a ton of jet sweeps. So you're going to see a ton of those screen passes, the jet sweeps.
Western Carolina could beat Arkansas.
Yeah, Arkansas is so bad. But I think that's going to be the recipe. Get the ball to our athletes in space, whether it's slant routes, the running back, little swing routes, flare routes, whatever it is. Just make it nice and easy. Let's continue just to kind of get him used to this offense, get him used to the speed of the game, get him used to the timing with the receivers and the running backs, the offensive line. But I think you're going to see going forward an Alabama offense. It's not what we saw in 2010 to 2015.
Yeah, for sure.
They're not going back to the ancient ages here, but they're not going to be throwing the ball 50 times a game. I can guarantee you that. It's going to be about 25, 30 times. Run the football. And even when they do pass it, like I said, majority of these passes are going to be within about 10 yards. And every now and then they'll take a shot down the field with him.
Yes or no? Well, Tua Tagovailoa, freshman, Tua's younger brother, see the field this week. And he's already played in 4 games. So if he plays this weekend, his red shirt's gone.
I would save it. I don't know. It's
emergency only?
Yeah, I would do emergency only. I mean, why would you burn a kid's red shirt year if you don't need him? I mean, those years are important because you're talking about a kid that, say Tua does leave, he could be the face of your program for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
So why I don't know why you'd want to risk it for a game that doesn't mean anything.
All right, let's head into the Big Ten. Number 12, Michigan is heading to Bloomington to take on Indiana. Watch out for the Hoosiers, man. They've had a really good season. They brought Penn State down to the wire just a week ago. Is Michigan about to get caught looking forward? They're hosting Ohio State next week.
I don't think they can. This is a good Indiana team. 4-game winning streak before last week. They played Penn State, close football game within a touchdown. So it's not like they're playing some chumps here. They're not playing like Wisconsin playing Illinois, where you're not like, okay, this team stinks. We're going to roll right through them. Boom, all of a sudden Illinois wins the game. They understand we're going on the road. We're playing a team that's 7-3. We got to take care of business to keep our train rolling a little bit. So this goes down to, once again, Shea Patterson.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
Don't turn the ball over. This team is playing great defense. They're running the ball really well with their young running backs. Shea just does not need to turn the ball over, and this team can win football games.
I know,
so they'll take care of business if they do that. If he turns the ball over versus this Indiana team,
watch out.
They will take advantage of it, and I think they could win this game.
I mean, how about Michigan? They rolled over Notre Dame. They just beat up on Michigan State, who they've had trouble with regardless of the talent on the field. If Shea Patterson takes care of the ball, there's a good chance they're going to win that football game with how they're running it and their defense. So I think Michigan takes this one seriously as well. And what if? It's not going to happen, but what if they beat Ohio State next weekend? That's going to be a fun game to keep our eyes on. Back to the SEC. Tennessee is heading to Mizzou. This is a tough game. Okay, Missouri is not good. Let's just get that out of the way. Kelly Bryant, Not good. I
What
watched
happened,
him last
man?
week. I have
What
no
happened?
idea. But Tennessee can become bowl eligible with the win this weekend in Columbia, a tough spot where they've had to play in the past. I wonder if Jeremy Pruitt and the boys can get a much-needed victory.
I just don't know where this Missouri team went. They're 5-1. The
Oh.
offense is rolling. They're feeling good. I mean, they got playmakers. They got receivers. They got talent at the offensive line. They got a great running back in Roundtree. They got a mobile quarterback that can do a little bit of everything. And they've just been awful. They lost to Vanderbilt, and it's like the world has ended
It's
there. Missouri.
crazy.
It has been just a free fall. They get shut out versus Georgia. They put up 6 points, I believe, to Florida this past weekend. It's non-existent on the offensive side. They lost their best linebacker early in the season. Defense has not been the same. And you want to talk about Tennessee? Those dudes have been rolling on
Yeah,
defense.
absolutely.
Great defense. They bought into Jeremy Pruitt and what he's doing. And I just pray that they just start Garantano the entire game. Enough of bringing the reliever in.
sure.
The reliever wants to be a starter. He said, coaches, I've proven that I'm no longer a quarterback that's going to have some problems when it comes to turnovers, of getting down on myself if I do make a mistake. He's been mentally strong. It's been impressive to see him bounce back this season. He has earned the right to be the starting quarterback for Tennessee. And if he is the starting quarterback, I look for this team not only win this week, but win the next week and have an opportunity to have 8 wins this season if they win the bowl game.
Yeah, Tennessee was in this exact same spot a year ago, 5-5, then got
smashed.
blown out by both Mizzou and Vandy. I don't think they fall into that pit this season. They've never won in Columbia. I think that changes this weekend. Purdue heads to number 14, Wisconsin. Look, this game really should not be that close, but Wisconsin did drop that game to Illinois earlier this season. Badgers, man, they were looking so good just a few weeks ago. Hopefully they can finish this season out strong.
Well, I think they'll be fine. Defense. We talked about it. Defense wins championships.
Yeah.
Still, this is still one of the best defenses in the country. Great running game. And they kind of understand we must win out in order to play Ohio State in the championship there for the Big Ten. Because Minnesota's a game ahead of them. So they got to win this week.
And then beat
they
Minnesota.
have to beat Minnesota. But if they lose this weekend, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Minnesota can just not even show up to the ballpark. They're going to be playing Ohio State in the championship game. So there is a sense of urgency right now. I think you're going to see it with the way the defense plays this weekend for Wisconsin. And I think you're going to see the way Jonathan Taylor runs the football. I think they go out there and dominate this football game and get ready for the big one next week versus Minnesota.
Yeah, they looked great last weekend against Nebraska. And if you see that opportunistic defense coached by Jim Leonard back out on the field for the Badgers, that's a scary team. And they definitely have what it takes to beat Minnesota in Minneapolis next week. A lot of rumors in East Lansing, Michigan, where Michigan State is held. They're playing at Rutgers this weekend. What's going to happen with Coach D'Antonio? You hear about the players. What happened to Michigan State this year? They need this win against Rutgers. You got to feel pretty good if you're the Spartans.
Well, if you ever need a win, just there's a couple teams in the country you want to play. You want to play Rutgers, you want to play Vandy.
Yeah, Akron.
Akron. You'll get a win.
Yeah.
So you should feel good about this, but it's crazy. I mean, for the past 2 years, there's so many people, and I fell into this trap last year, that you look at their roster like, man, they got a great defense.
Yeah.
They got Brian Lewerke at quarterback. They got all these starters, man.
They're try to run the
They're
football.
going to be
Yeah.
good. They're going to be good. They win. And then they're not. They
I
just
know.
disappoint after. And it's the offense. The offense continues to disappoint these past 2 seasons. We just put too much hype on them. And they're in a great conference. Let's not get it twisted here. The Big Ten is the second best
Big
conference.
Ten East is a really good division.
And the Big Ten East is probably one of the toughest after the SEC West in
Yeah.
this country right now. So that doesn't help at all. But still, offensively, it's been troubling for them this year because at times the defense plays really, really well.
Yeah, Michigan State needs 2 wins to get bowl eligible. Playing Rutgers in Maryland, Sparty's got
a good feel.
Yeah, they got to
Good
feel
feel.
pretty good. Boston College is heading to South Bend to take on number 15 Notre Dame. A great rivalry game here. And Coach Adazio, Boston College, what's going on up there? He might be on the hot seat right now. Notre Dame's playing pretty decent football.
Notre
They
Dame-
whooped up on Navy last
I
week.
was surprised.
Yeah.
Man. You don't see a lot of teams put that many points on Navy just because of the fact Navy controls the clock. Notre Dame right now is rolling, playing great defense this time of the year. Ian Book is legit. I really like watching him, but he's just a playmaker, and he looks more comfortable in the pocket. They call him a Ian Book and go, or one look book or something like that, because they always say he looks for one receiver
And he's
then
gone.
boom, he's
Yeah,
gone.
it's tough to defend.
But he's doing a good job of sitting in the pocket, getting through his reads, and then extending the play with his legs. So I think he goes again once this week, does his job, and Notre Dame wins, and then. Yeah, I don't know about Adazio and Boston College. Not only are they going to lose this game, but then they turn around and play Pitt the following week, and this is a pretty good Pitt team this
Yeah.
year. It ain't looking too good for Adazio.
Yeah, tough look after they lost to Florida State just a week ago. Florida State, though, playing pretty good for Coach Hagan's down there in Tallahassee. TCU heads to number 8, Oklahoma. Oklahoma obviously coming off 2 absolute nail-biters. TCU's a pretty good football team. Gary Patterson has that defense playing well. Maybe they could slow down Jalen Hurts and shock the Sooners in Norman.
And also, TCU scoring 32 points a game.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma can't stop anyone right now. So once again, this is going to be a game that comes down to Jalen Hurts being miraculous. He's going to have to do something special. I mean, because I don't see right now, watching Oklahoma, there's absolutely no confidence that their defense is going to be able to stop TCU in their offense right now. So it's going to have to come, like I said, Jalen Hurts is going to have to do it with his legs, do it with his arms. CeeDee Lamb's going to have to do his thing as a receiver on the outside. So I like Oklahoma, but it's going to be a squeaky one, just like this past weekend versus Baylor.
Yeah, a couple of marquee games to round out this weekend. Number 24, Texas A&M is heading into Athens, Georgia, to take on the number 4 ranked Georgia Bulldogs. Look, Texas A&M really had a tough schedule. They lost to Auburn, they lost to Clemson, they lost to Alabama. They've caught up a little bit. Now, their competition hasn't been that good. Can they catch the Bulldogs off guard? The Bulldogs just wrapped up the SEC East.
Yeah.
They know where they're going to be in 2 weeks, but they also need to stay focused for some college football playoffs.
Yeah, Georgia understands that they must win out if they want to get in. I still don't know if Georgia loses this but beats LSU. It gets a little bit hairy if they get into this or to the Final Four still. You look at Texas A&M and how they've gotten better and better, and I know they haven't played the best competition like you alluded to, but Kellen Bond, ever since he learned that, hey, maybe I am a dual-threat quarterback and maybe I should just run the damn ball and that's going to open up things down the field, he has looked tremendously better from the midseason on. He's running the ball effectively. They're running the ball as a team really, really well. You got Mike Elko as your DC. This is a good football team, a really good football team. If Georgia shows up sleepy, it could be the same thing that happened to him for South Carolina because it's a better team than South Carolina was. So Georgia should take care of business. This defense continues to go out there and ball out. It's going to be a close one, though. There's just no game to me, just like Oklahoma is never going to really blow anyone out because of their defense. Same thing with Georgia. Because of Georgia's offense, they're not going to blow anyone out, but who cares?
Yeah.
You're winning football games. This is still an SEC game against a really good SEC West opponent. Just win. Win, baby, win, and you're in. So it's going to be a close one. It's going to be a fun one down there in Athens.
Yes, such little room for error for the Bulldogs. If you turn the football over without a quick-paced offense, you're in trouble right there. So if they hold on to the football, I don't think they'll get caught sleeping like they did with that early kickoff against South Carolina. Should be a live atmosphere in Athens this week, and I think Bulldogs take care of business as well. In the Big 12, there's a big game. Texas is heading into number 13, Baylor. Baylor has to bounce back after their loss last week, their brutal loss to Oklahoma. But the storyline here, I want to say, Texas. I mean, they just lost to Iowa State. Keep in mind, they absolutely torched Georgia in the Sugar Bowl last year. Sam Ehlinger said Texas is back. Where's Texas, man? Tom Herman, Sam Ehlinger, what's going on? Horns down.
Horns
indeed.
Down for sure.
What's going to happen this weekend? Baylor wins, they're going to head to the Big 12 championship.
Texas has no confidence. This is not a good football team. And you said the Sugar Bowl last year, Texas is back. We feel great. We played LSU tight, blah, 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 blah.
That seemed like
Texas,
so long ago.
There's just not a good team, and there's nothing about it. And Baylor right now, I think they still see an opportunity to have a great season. They finish out the season strong. They get to go against Oklahoma again.
Yeah.
And I think they want that revenge. They're like, man, we should have beat Oklahoma. We should be undefeated. You should. Well, you're not. Now go out there, win out, and you're getting an opportunity to beat Oklahoma again in a few weeks. So I think they'll come out focused, ready to go. And like I said, Texas just stinks, man. They're not a good team. You want to talk about a coach on the hot seat?
You think so, Tom Herman?
I think so, man. He's been there long enough. He's brought in some recruits.
Wow.
He's had the time to build this team, and they're not good still.
Yeah.
They're not. They're losing games they should win. Texas should not be losing this many games if he's, in his third or fourth season coaching there.
Yeah, in the Big 12, it was ripe for the taking. They had every opportunity to get back to the Big 12 championship game. Not going to happen this year. I think Baylor bounces back as well. Love that team coached by Matt Rule. The marquee game of the weekend is, of course, number 9, Penn State, heading to number 2, Ohio State. We talked to JT Barrett and Allen Robinson, a couple of alums from each respective school, about their thoughts on this game. Simply put, can Penn State knock off Ohio State? Ohio State has had probably the most complete and consistent season so far. Chase Young's back. Justin Fields is rolling. Primetime game in Columbus. I mean, this is going to be a fun one to watch, I think, if you're a Buckeye fan.
Yes, and Chase Young is the man I think everyone wants to watch. 2 weeks off.
Yeah.
The legs are fresh. He's not happy.
What a timely 2-game suspension for Chase Young. Come on back for Penn State and Michigan.
The key in this game is, one, going to be him. How can you protect him? You're going to need a tight end chip in. you're going to have six or seven man protection all the time. Running back, tight end, continue to knock him around. If you put him one-on-one, he will terrorize you the entire game. But Sean Clifford, the quarterback for Penn State, you go back to Minnesota, was horrific.
Yeah.
Just not a good game. When the lights were bright, he just shrunk down, made a ton of mistakes in that game, 3 interceptions. He needs to take care of the ball against this elite defense for Ohio State. If he doesn't, this game is going to get out of control fast. But I'm excited to see Ohio State. This is their opportunity now to prove to the country that, hey, not only are we're good because of the eyeball test, great offense, great defense, but now we start trying to chip away when it comes to the schedule. Penn State, Michigan, and then the Big Ten championship game. So
Absolutely.
I think to them, they believe that they should be number one. Obviously, LSU has deserved it based on their wins, but I would not be surprised at the end of the year if Penn State takes care of business that this team could jump LSU and be the number one team heading into the playoffs.
Yeah, if Ohio State takes care of business.
Yes, if Ohio State takes care of business.
You know what I think, though? At the end of the year, if Penn State takes care of business and wins this game, USC might be calling James Franklin and saying, hello, would you be interested in coaching
We got
the
about like
Trojans
5 hot takes
in 2020?
sprinkled in the show.
Just got to sprinkle them around and
hot takes
see
everywhere.
what sticks. I have a feeling, though, that one could happen. I just don't see Penn State winning this game. Ohio State's too good. And if they win these next 2 games, like you said, they will have a legitimate opportunity to say that they are, in fact, the number one team in the nation after being the Big Ten champions. But that's why you play the game, and that's why you come here to Campus Lore Live to figure out what's going to happen, and we appreciate you doing that. For Aaron, I'm Drew. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week right back here on Campus Lore Live.